Hi, Jerry Tachoir with Mallet Tip number 5. Keyboard instruments, predominantly mallet instruments, are very much mechanical devices. In other words, we have a frame. On the frame, the bars sit, whether they're aluminum or, in the case of the marimba, Honduras rosewood or a synthetic product. The resonators are there to enhance the volume of the sound. After you hit the bar vibrates, goes into the resonators and comes out and is enhanced. And then we have these extendo fingers, mallets. This is one of the very few instruments that we don't actually touch. Think about it. Saxophone, you get to hold it, you're blowing into it, trumpet, clarinet, even piano, you sit and you're touching the keyboard. But with mallet instruments, we got these extensions. So we're not really actually that close to allowing our body to be used to enhance the tone of the instrument. It's pretty much the way we hit with the mallets. So the problem has always been then, how do we establish an identity? How do we listen to an instrumentalist, a mallet player, and decide who it is based off of what it sounds like? What do we have to do? And I come to a few suggestions here. One being, obviously, your choice of instruments. I have been playing Musser mallet instruments since I was probably 7, 8 years old. I had my first endorsement signed by Mr. Ludwig in 1972 when I was a junior in high school. So I've been with him for a long time. So obviously I picked an instrument that I know, that I love the sound and the tone. Musser has always kind of set the standard for tone and quality through the years that other companies try to emulate. So this has been my instrument of choice, which again is going to help to give me an identifiable sound. The next thing obviously is your choice of mallets, because your mallet is then the next thing that's going to allow you to hit your instrument and produce the sound. I've been very fortunate that I have an endorsement with Innovative Percussion Mallets. They are the makers of the JT23, Jerry Tachoir signature line of mallets. When we first decided to come up with this, it took about a year of prototypes. I mean, we went back and forth to make it harder, make it softer, make it straighter, make it longer, add more wraps, take a few wraps away, about tighter, looser, until one day they finally showed up and I heard the sound of the mallets and I said, whoa, that's it. This is what I want. Innovative is one of the very few companies that has a computerized wrapping machine. So what they do is they'll load the mallets into this computerized machine and they'll punch in the computer, Jerry Tachoir JT23 mallet, and it'll wrap the mallet consistently every time the exact same way. So anyway, you're always going to get a mallet that's going to sound like the one that I have designed. So other than your instrument and your mallets, what are we going to do to establish our own unique sound? Well, the next thing is obviously your choice of notes, how you play on improvised passages, how you feel swing or blues, or how do you feel funk or whatever. So it's going to be your personality coming out in the actual improvisation and the actual playing of your instrument. Other than that, it's probably your choice of chords, how you formulate chords, whether you tend to play chords very tight or very open. Do you use the full keyboard? Are you narrowed in your use of the instrument? These are all things too that will help you kind of get an identity. Now, at one point, I quit listening to vibraphone players because I didn't want to sound like anybody else. So I started listening to piano players. One of my strongest influences was Bill Evans, the piano player. And the way he could take a melody and improvise, floating over the changes from chord change to chord change over the bar line, was something that I had to learn and I had to adapt it to the instrument. So that became my primary thing that I was trying to emulate, is trying to be more pianistic than a vibraphone. So what I do with my left hand is pretty much playing the fundamentals of the chords, in other words, the thirds and the sevenths, the guide tones. So I'm playing those. That's my left hand of the piano player. Then in my right hand, we'll be playing linear lines and melodies, improvising and using other chord tones or tensions whenever I can grab it. So again, I'm a piano player stuck right now in a three octave world of F on a vibraphone and trying to play piano. Other things that you can do to get an identity. There's some effects that you can use, and the effects are harmonics. Harmonics is where you're actually dividing the bar with your mallet. You're pushing down, in this case, the center of the bar, and then I hit the bar on one of the other axes, and as soon as I hit it, I'm going to release the original place where I'm stopping the bar. So what it gives you is a harmonic, and it's basically 2 octaves up. Here we go again. So it's a very subtle technique, but it's kind of nice at certain intros and maybe exits of a tune to throw a harmonic in there. The tremolo is something that, for some reason, it was never very attractive to me on the instrument. The tremolo, in other words, the motor that exists on the vibraphone, you turn it on and it goes wow, 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 gives you that tremolo effect. And you can speed it up or slow it down. And I find personally that it was a little bit monotonous. And if I'm playing a whole tune with one wow, 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 it just kind of bothered me. And I also found that it sort of introduced a pulse. And that pulse was something that you have to make sure that it kind of coordinates with the pulse of the tune. Otherwise, you're sort of fighting something. So you're always adjusting that to get that quite right. And so I really never got into using the tremolo effect that much. I will use it occasionally if I'm doing a performance or maybe a general business gig where they're wanting to have like a more of a historic sound, something like from the Modern Jazz Quartet or something like that, where I know that when Milt would play, he used a very slow effect, and it was just kind of nice to hear that. So occasionally I will use it for times like that. Also, if the piano's out of tune. If I'm stuck and I'm playing with my wife or doing a duo concert or something and the piano's out of tune, I find that if I turn the tremolo on, it could sort of mask the beating of the untuned piano against the vibraphone. So it's kind of a crazy way to do it, but it seems to work. So, but other things that I will do, occasionally I'll manually reach over, I'll lift the little lid on the muster instrument, and I'll play something. And I'll do something like that, where I'll just manually move the little propellers inside the resonators to give a little bit of a tremolo effect. And it's kind of nice also if you close it all the way, right? They're all closed, in other words, they're flat, and you hit a kind of a chord. You can sort of open up that chord. Guitar players do that a lot with volume pedals. They'll turn their volume pedal all the way off. They'll hit a chord so you don't hear the attack, and then they'll kind of open it up, and it just sounds like just a lot of airy kind of chord without actually hearing the attack. So other little effects that I will do, sometimes up in this upper octave up here, there's a little thing where I'll actually open my mouth over top of a key, and you get something like this. It's kind of a goofy effect, but it's kind of fun. People seem to get a kick out of it. The other option is dampening. Not dampening, but bending. We're going to bend notes. So if you studied in high school, they were talking about mass. And anytime you have a mass of so much, like a beating bar that's producing certain sine wave frequency, if you add more mass to this beating bar, then the pitch will go flat. So you take a hard mallet, and what I'm going to do is add pressure at the nodal point, the point where the string goes through. I'm going to add pressure there, and then I'm going to introduce it into the vibrating part of the bar, which is kind of towards the edge of the bar. And by doing this, it's adding the mass of this hard rubber to the vibrating bar, causing the note to go flat. So here's an example. Again, it's a subtle technique, but it's kind of nice. I've heard other people do it on tunes where it's very bluesy and you're just introducing a little bit of a downward bend. It's about a quarter tone that will cause the bar to go flat. So that's kind of a nice effect. So these are the things as a mallet player that I have in my arsenal of tools to allow me to get an identity. Again, the strongest identity is going to come from your choice of instrument, your choice of mallet, and your choice of notes. The other subtle things just kind of give it a little bit of icing on the cake, a little bit of flavor to allow you to do something a little bit different and make the instrument yours. So I encourage you to experiment and come up with whatever you can, various ways to make the instrument, yours, in terms of like you sound exactly like this person or this person, but to get an identity. And it's the hardest thing because, again, we are hitting the bar with a mallet. So anybody can come up and take my mallet and hit that bar, and they're going to sound exactly like me hitting that bar. So we have to find a way to make it ours. And that's been the biggest struggle on these instruments, is to try to, with your choice of both technique and the notes and the way you play and how you articulate and how your mind thinks, is the only way we really can make the instrument our own. So anyway, with that tip, I hope I help you, and continue listening. We'll have some more tips in the future. Thank you so much.